It's always a delight to have you join us on the program Politics Today on independent television and radio. This beautiful Saturday, 13th day of July 2019 with Sunny Duke Okosun. Today on the program, we'll look at the latest in the series of issues surrounding the inauguration of the Edo State House of Assembly. Just yesterday, the House Committee, other committee, as a matter of fact, were in the state to investigate the issues surrounding the inauguration. And I think also yesterday or so, we saw a massive rally in support of the Governor Godwin Obaseki against the background of the crisis that has, trailed the party, trailed the government, a case of crisis between the Benin politician and what some call the Abuja politicians. We'll look at all of these on today's program. As usual, our studio lines will be open so you can call and be part of the conversation. Let me quickly acknowledge the presence of our panelists for today. Three are here on site. One is going to be joining us via telephone in the course of the program. Let me appreciate Reverend Olu Martins, Executive Director, Canvassers for Democracy and Rule of Law. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
Good morning, listeners on radio and viewers on television. Nice to be here this morning.
I also have with us in the studio former Benin branch chairman of the NBA, Barrister Edha Asanogwa. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sonny, and good morning, my listeners.
Let me also welcome Sonny Edha. Is also a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, and we're glad to have you on the program this beautiful Saturday morning.
Thank you.
Okay, in the course of the discussion and conversation, Ahmed Musa will be joining us from Edo North to deepen the conversation. But gentlemen, just now, it came like news, and then eventually we saw it on the floor of the House of Representatives. Some members of the House of Representatives, I think about 3 of them or so, bringing to the National Assembly the issues surrounding what they described as illegal inauguration of the State House of Assembly and calling on the National Assembly to intervene. And as a follow-up to that, another committee was inaugurated, and yesterday they were in Benin on a fact-finding mission. Martin, you want to build on that? Just when you think that, okay, the dust generated by the issue is settling down, then there is a new twist to the whole conversation.
Well, thank you, ITV, for the opportunity. 20 years ago, some things would have gone unnoticed, but with pace-setter setting television stations like your own, working with citizens, journalists on social media, nothing goes unnoticed anymore. So we must appreciate ITV and your humble self for bringing such very topical issues to the front burner. If I listened to the motion as read by the erudite Professor Julius Ihonwiri, and if they had asked for intervention, it probably would have been a welcome development. But what they asked for was not intervention. What they asked for was that the House of Reps should take over the functions of the Edo State House of Assembly, because in their words, legislative activity wasn't going on. And I found that a little bit uncomfortable because very just now, I'm not sure that I heard the reports of any investigation. I'm not sure I heard the reports of any interrogation. This is democracy. And democracy has a twin sister. It's called the rule of law. To ask in a gestapo manner that people should just come and take over the legislative arm of, by the way, an independent state. Because if anything happens today, Edo State can stand by itself as a country. And indeed, that's what it is. Because in a federal system of government, the federating units have their independence, as it were, as a state, of their own. They consciously cede part of it to the federal government. The federal government is not superior in a federation to a state government. The state governor is not inferior to the president in a federal system of government. We agree to come together as a federal system of government and then cede part, of our sovereignty, in a manner of speaking, to the federal government to superintend over such issues as customs, over such issues as army, and in present day Nigeria, over such issues, as the police. So I think it was unfair, really, if you have not heard from both parties. And I respect Professor Julius Ihawere, but to say that I expected more from him, and that I was disappointed by that action, because you have not, like the lawyers will say, established a prima facie. You haven't heard from both sides. You have not tried to intervene in the process. You didn't bring before the Federal House of Representatives facts and figures for which you are asking them, to do that. So it's just like going outside of the state and throwing stones in your own, state. Do not forget that before now, a few days to that time, the Oba of Benin had made an appeal to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to intervene in this crisis. I would have been thinking that a true Edo man would have been looking at how to consolidate on that appeal made by the Oba of Benin, so that this impasse can dissolve. But we're also getting towards election. That's what happens in a build-up to election. Gladiators, pretenders, and contenders come up, and everybody pretends or contends for the powers that be. I'm happy that the House of Rep, in its wisdom, set up an investigative committee to interrogate everybody. I watched it on television yesterday. They appeared civil. They have met with the deputy governor. I'm told that they had also interviewed the guys who went to Abuja. They have also had an interface with the national chairman of the party. And we're hoping that, unfortunately, they have said that their findings will not be made public. But from the body language of the individuals, we're hoping that in a few days, from now, we can see a directive or hear a directive or an advice from the National Assembly, because the House of Rep cannot act alone, even if you say you want to take over the actions of...
Must get the Senate involved. Let me push you.
At the end of the day, what they must look for is an amicable resolution. Edo State can handle, their own crisis.
All right, Barrister Edha Asenogwa, does the National Assembly have that constitutional power to intervene? And then what do you make of the unresolved issue of the fate of the other members of the House that are yet to be inaugurated in view of the circumstances prevailing?
Well, thank you very much. For me, if you ask whether the National Assembly have the power to intervene in the affairs of the Edo State House of Assembly, on the surface I would say no. But the National Assembly, by the very clear provisions of the Constitution, has the power to take over the functions of the Edo State House of Assembly where it becomes clear and apparent that the State House of Assembly is incapable of carrying out its functions. And the Constitution also goes ahead to say that before the National Assembly can say that the State House of Assembly can no longer carry out its functions, then the State House of Assembly must not be able to sit and to carry out legislative functions. The Constitution is very clear. It is not the House of Reps. It is not the Senate. It is the National Assembly. And when you say National Assembly, it is a combination of both the Reps and the Senate. So what has happened by calling on the Federal House of Representatives to take over the functions of the House of Assembly is an error in law. First, you must show that the House is not able to carry out its function because of what is happening in the state. And I use the word state, not what is happening in the party. So even if the party, they have their faction, it is not enough to make the National Assembly want to intervene. It is only possible when the House of Assembly of a state can no longer sit, can no longer carry out its functions, they are no longer meeting, and maybe because of war or some form of crisis that makes it impossible for them to sit. But we in Edo State know that the House of Assembly have, since their inauguration, whether rightly or wrongly, have been carrying out their functions. And so it is premature, the circumstances are non-existent to say that the National Assembly, as it were, should come and intervene. But politically, there may be nothing wrong for anybody or authority to seek to intervene where there is crisis. Because as citizens, we are all interested in peace, order, and good governance. So if some people feel that, oh, they could take their case to either the House of Representatives or the Senate or the President and say, oh, use your office and your position to try and assist us solve this problem, there's nothing wrong with that. But for you to try to ignite them to carry out certain functions which the Constitution does not bestow on them, of course, is an error. It's an error.
All right, Sonny.
And for those who have not been inaugurated,
yes,
those who are not presently part of those that have been inaugurated, my own take is very simple. I also hear that some have posited, and they are insisting that the governor must issue a fresh proclamation. Again, that is an error in law. The Constitution is clear. That cannot be done twice. And the only way to say that what has been done in this capacity is wrong is the only the court that can pronounce on it. And so even if the governor wants to, at this point, he can't do that. Because the job has been done in any event. The only responsibility of the governor is to issue a letter. That's what is called the proclamation. It's a letter.
Yes.
And the function of inauguration is that of the clerk. So for you to be telling governor, go and issue a fresh proclamation, when the clerk has accepted that I got a letter of proclamation, it was his discretion, it was within his powers to decide how to inaugurate the house.
Of course, of course, we heard the clerk yesterday saying that he got a letter.
Exactly. So the governor has done his bit. So when people now start saying, no, the governor must this, the governor must that, you must put them in their proper compartments. What was the role and function of the governor in all of this? To issue a proclamation. That he has done. The inauguration was determined by the clerk. That is the powers given to him clearly by the Constitution. And having done that, nobody, not even the governor, can set it aside except a competent court of law.
All right, let me
and
come
for
to
those who have refused, they should go there, get inaugurated, make their case on the floor of the House. I saw some documents on social media alleging that they are signing him. You can't do that.
But they should go to court.
We'll come to that final point on this conversation. Let me get Sonny Dagmo involved here. Particularly the perspectives that have been shared that this is just politicking. Abuja politicians versus local politicians, if I may use it. Is that what this is about?
Well, I think the fact speaks for itself. First, I want to wholeheartedly acknowledge the very worthy contributions of my colleagues here on panel here today, Reverend Lou Martins and Barrister Edha Asenwa. We happen to have shared a very robust history of political activism that dates back to our university days at the great Ambosali University at Boma. So I'm not surprised that they are this very dispassionate and objective in their contributions. The truth is very clear. You cannot get what you have failed to get from the front door through the back door. That's exactly what they are scheming at. They want to attempt to turn back the hand of the clock, which is impossible. Those people that are I've gone to seek refuge in Abuja, like someone who used to say that some persons are seeking to be on political oxygen in Abuja to stay relevant politically in those states. Well, I think it's a very funny irony of fate that the table seems to have turned complete 360 degrees. It's sad that we can go all the way to the center instead of going to Abuja to showcase the best and the best amongst us, or some of those things which we can do to promote our state and our well-being, to attract development to our state and to our very lives as a people. But rather, some persons are now going to Abuja to try to showcase the very dirty things that should ordinarily be taken off the public glare. That, I would say, it's very sad. So I think they should come back home. The action is right here in Edo State. There's no running away. You have to face it as a man. When you have issues, you face it head on. And I want to advise that such actions of going outside your home to be throwing stones back to your home with a view to continually disparaging your people and attempting to demarket your state before the national space and the international community is unacceptable, and that we, as a people that are peace-loving and are purposeful, we will resist it with every instrumentalities within our reach as a people.
Okay, I'll come back to you in a moment. I've heard people say, well, this is just politicking. Politics is always about interest and interest and interest. At some point, all of these centripetal and centrifugal forces will find a meeting point and the issues will be resolved. But just a few days, I think yesterday or so, we saw a solidarity rally being held where the governor said a whole lot of things, and we saw a whole lot of stakeholders drumming support from the civil society side, from the labor movement, market women, and all of that. Isn't that a signal that this crisis, the end of this crisis, is not in sight just yet, Olu Martins?
Well, thank you. You know that they say that, I like the way Sonny talks slowly. I'm trying to imitate him, but my body to the heart, so let me just be myself. They say it is the crisis that comes, the peace that comes after crisis. It is the peace that comes after crisis. It is the peace that comes after crisis that is the most valuable. So I jokingly tell people that if I don't pronounce your name well, I grew up in the States. In this case, now state CID, not United States. The reason is because I've been incarcerated on 1 or 2 occasions. When you get there, there is a boss man there, and then you have his little foot soldiers. In this case, now you don't even bother trying to go fight with the little foot soldiers, because there will be too many of them to fight with. So what are you advised to do? Go and give the boss man a head boot. The other guys will beat you. They will probably suppress you, but the boss man would appreciate your courage, that this guy can actually confront me. So even when it looks like one person is constantly on the offensive, the other person looks like a coward. And then you now say, you know what? All die and I die. Let us even fight this fight so that we can know each other's strength. All right? So I think that's what happened. And as to the rally, because this House of Assembly thing, it's not about inauguration. If it was about inauguration, these other guys would have gone to be inaugurated. It's about leadership. It's that some people want the leadership of the House of Assembly, legislature, for whatever reason. We cannot tell, but the governor has said, quoting him verbatim, that some people want to use the leadership of the House of Assembly to hold him ransom, paraphrasing ransom now. So it's about leadership. And for whatever purpose it is, it's clear that it is to derail the thing. And you see, the man whom they taught to play guitar has gone ahead to learn how to play the drums. Because it was in this state that 9 House of Assembly members loyal to the opposition party met in the House of Assembly claiming leadership. And we saw the fisticuff that took place. The former governor took off the roof and relocated those guys because he understands that once you can determine who gets the leadership, then impeachment procedure it will just follow automatically. It happened in Benue State. Number 2, if people are so eager, why has somebody not asked? Because I like what he said about demarketing. Why is somebody not coming from Bauchi State to say they should go and take over the House of Assembly in Bauchi State? The same scenarios in Bauchi State that happened at about the same time. This is my problem with the Edo people. The northern people, what happens in Rome? They leave it in Rome. That's why you see the northerners appear to have, greater unity, because they understand that we will not take one talk about our problems outside. They will keep it with them. But the Edo man will go out there and demarket his own state. Bauchi has the same problem. Nobody's talking about Bauchi. So the solidarity rally. I spoke at the solidarity rally. The reason is because it was Ojukwu that said at the Aburi conference that the death of every Nigerian affects me. He said, so because I'm a Nigerian, I'm involved. I'm an Edo man. I'm not an APC man. A member of civil society. I'm a clergy. But when I see somebody who shows clear leadership capacity, in spite of his own shortcomings, there's no perfect human being. It was Booker T. Washington that said, nature scatters in every generation. Men and women who must take charge of the destinies of others and turn it around for good. When we see such person who is modest in his approach to leadership, who delivers the dividends of democracy, the pensioners were eager, they were trying to talk. Because they said they have received last month's salary. On the platform, on the rostrum that I was, the joy was palpable. It was clear to us that all and sundry just had natural love for Governor Godwin Obaseki. And that's not a political statement. That is the fact. And like the lawyers will say, the facts speak for themselves. Res ipsa loquitur. So what people have decided to do is to say that if we see a man that can galvanize both human and material resources for our benefit. It was one of the chief of staff of former American president that said we must not fear to negotiate, but we must not negotiate out of fear. And that was why the governor spoke the way he spoke. We must negotiate our own future. Martin Luther King says, I've been to the mountaintop, but I must return to the valley and identify with my brothers and sisters. So what we saw there was identification with a man who does things completely different from what we used to know. If that rally was in the former administration, some people would have been shooting guns on their way there. There would have been chaos. Or according to Zebediah, there would have been chaos all over the ring road. So when you see that kind of leader who doesn't make noise about his achievement, who has changed the way of doing. Teachers came there with their
so this solidarity rally was justifiable.
Was justifiable. I'll come back to you. Just to show that this man has, met our aims and aspirations.
Yeah, I'll come back to you, Dr. Martins. All right, let me come Barrister Edha Sonogwa. At the time we talked about strengthening democracy, we talked about the independence of the executive, legislature, and the judiciary. If you have a rubber stamp legislature, doesn't that in itself pose a big danger to governance, good governance and strengthening of democracy? Because that seems to be what this is about. Because he talked about control of leadership of the legislature.
Well, that may be correct, that the fight and the struggle is for the control of the legislature. Now, what is the purpose? What do you do if you have the control? That's more important to me. Now, there is separation of powers. The executive, the legislature, and of course the judiciary. It is important that the legislature and the judiciary are separate and independent, and they are not rubber stamps. Very fundamental to democratic principles. However, there must be a meeting point. They must work together harmoniously, not just because you are the legislature, everything the executive does is wrong. Oh, you must create problem for the executive. No. As a matter of fact, they must complement each other to ensure that there is peace and good governance, and the dividends of democracy are dispensed to the people who have elected them. Now, to say that whether or not you want to take charge of the House of Assembly, the truth is, I have always insisted that it is one of the major problems in this country is that we have not had a benevolent leader, a leader whose primary focus is the overall well-being of the majority of the people. That has been the problem. And so I heard in some instances, I think it was on this program, I was listening. Somebody said, we don't even need the House of Assembly. We don't need them. What role have they played? The people who voted against their own independence. Somebody said, because we feel that the governor has our best interest at heart. If the House is going to disturb him, we don't need the House of Assembly. That is the cry, the feeling of an average Edo man. But you see, the law does not permit that, because it is not every time you get a kind of leader that the people will say, oh, House of Assembly, go and sleep. Sometimes you have a leader that you are now looking for a house to checkmate him. Yes. To checkmate him. Yes. So what is the situation in Edo State? It is beyond doubt that we have seen a governor whom the people are in love with. Not because they just love him, but because of what he's doing. Every sector, every department seems to be saying, well, this man is doing good. Not that he doesn't have mistakes, not that he has not made some errors. Of course, it's only God that is infallible. But we are saying, we have seen the signs that this man genuinely has Edo State, Edo people, progress of the people and of the state clearly at heart. Not only having it at heart, he has a clear focus and vision and the direction he wants to take the state. For me, these are distractions. And if that is so, everybody must join hands. For me, this fight, if they say it's Obaseki versus Oshomole, I say no. It is about those who love Edo State and those who hate Edo State. Those who want the progress of Edo State and those who are selfish and want only their progress and not that of the generality of our people. So for me, want anything that is going to disrupt this present government. It's not only Obaseki, he has a team. The deputy is there, the SSG is there, the chief of staff is there, and all the commissioners, they are there. It's a team. Anybody that does not want them to work is an enemy of the state. Because for me, politics aside, is the man delivering? Is he meeting our expectations? If everybody is saying yes, the voice of the people is the voice of God.
Okay, all right, Sonny Dagmo. Yes. I'd like to get your thoughts along the lines of the question that I asked Barrister Edha Asanongo, which of course is eloquently made some comments on. They say the dictatorship thrives where there is no legislature, an independent legislature for that matter. Isn't that the focus of this crisis? But who takes what, who gets what in this leadership crisis that we're seeing in the State House of Assembly?
Let me just say this.
Yes.
Now, there's already a speaker. Another person is saying, no, we want the leadership. What do you want to do with it?
Okay.
Is it also going to be a stooge to some people who are fighting for him to come?
So it continues? It
continues. So
right.
Tell me that, oh, the one that is there now is because it's a problem. The one you want to bring is not that interest. So what do you want to do with it?
Okay, so let me build on that.
I was coming to that point. You see, this matter is a straightforward matter. We do not need any meddlesome interloper in the administration of our state. Enough is enough. All of those shenanigans about talking about or trying to grandstand about independence of
The judicial, I mean the
of the legislature.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask them is why they were on the saddle in the not too distant past year. How well did they receive the principle of separation of powers?
That's why they want a leadership that will be independent of the executive.
Good. But I say no, that's not what they want. Because I like addressing issues frontally and not necessarily from the academic point of view. See, this is a real problem and a present and potent danger to the good governance of Edo State. And right now, Edo State government have not had it so good for a long, long time. Presently, we are blessed to have a very clear-headed, visionary leadership in the person of Mr. Godwin Nowogase Obaseki. The man is ably piloting the affairs of the state the best possible way that he can. And like someone said here, that the voice of the people is the voice of God. If you go out there on the street, you see the people, they are all rejoicing, like the Bible said. It said, when the righteous rules, the people rejoice. But what do you get? There was a time past in this state whereby Agberoism, what they call unleashing of tongue rule, you know, that's mob rule, isn't it? Mob rule, you know, was the order of the day, whereby might was everything. But today, you find a situation whereby you have a governor, you have a captain who is purposefully and tenaciously implementing the rule of law in this state. The laws should be able to rule us, should be able to guide us, be able to give us direction and not might. So, well, as far as I know, those people who want to plant or want to usurp the powers and functions of the legislature in Edo State, they are doing it with a very selfish and ignoble motive, which is at cross purpose with the yearnings and aspirations of the good people of Edo State. Our people want development. We need development. We need purposeful leadership. And the present administration is providing it. So there is no need for all these altercations. If actually anybody out there were to be interested genuinely in the good governance of our state, then we should be singing hallelujah and be thinking of how to bring on board some constructive criticisms here and there, because no man is perfect. There is always room for improvement. But to say no, you want to juxtapose that for something that is completely anachronistic to the yearnings and aspirations of the good people of Edo State, well, I would say once again that this time around they have just run into a brick wall.
Okay, let's quickly conclude on this. What are your thoughts on finding a lasting resolution to this issue? I mean, 2020 is just around the corner. And some have said, well, this is all about 2020.
Well, you know, Sonny Edha said, there's no need for crisis. There was always a crisis. Politics is about crisis and consensus. There must be crisis. At any rate, they are called human beings, not human rights. Beans has more multiple usage than rice. So there will be different kinds of, people. Number two, when Barrister was saying, if those who want to distract this present administration, I forgot when I was on IT. I was almost going to the Holy Ghost. How is Holy Ghost fire? I remember, so no, I'm on IT. So, an ITV is not a really, it's not a religious platform. But the truth of the matter is that I think that people should be told that Edo State It's not Lagos State. And most for two reasons. Number one, sometime back, I think 2008 or thereabouts, we gathered in the stadium where billboards adorned in everywhere in the stadium and in the streets of Edo State, one language, say no to Godfatherism. And we queued behind and mobilized.
Okay, just give pause a little while. We'll be speaking now with Ahmed Musa, an APC chieftain from Edo North. Ahmed Musa, good morning and thank you for joining us on Politics Today on Independent Television.
Thank you so much.
I'm just trying to, Ahmed Musa, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, yeah.
You've been following the events in the state,
Yes.
particularly on the State House of Assembly. I mean, just yesterday, some national legislators came on a fact-finding mission. Some say this whole crisis is about leadership in the House, which some people are intending to use to gag the governor. What are your thoughts? What is the real crux of this matter as far as the issue is concerned?
Well, thank you so much, Sonny. I'm particularly happy to join you people on this program. And my take in this, as a chieftain of the All Progressive Congress, is we are not happy that this type of thing is happening in Edo State, particularly as APC members, where we had 24/24. I have said it even on your radio and television on the program that we celebrated 24/24. If we did, and we used taxpayers' money to celebrate 24/24, we should be able to bring them together and harmonize them, let them choose their leadership. Even when the National Assembly in Abuja, where the national chairman of APC said is Ahmed Lawa, and he was silent on Femi Gbajabiamila, and later the party came up with something that Femi should be speaker, while Lawan should be Senate president. They still went into a caucus of the party and agreed with the party members and lobby even the PDP to ensure that that leadership was achieved. But here in Edo State, where we celebrated, spent taxpayers' money, we didn't give to politicians now. No greedy politician took part of this money to celebrate 24/24. Then we cannot come together and we swore in members. Some were sworn with supplicants, some came in with borrowed suits and caps, and they were being sworn in Edo State, and we are laughing. And I hear every day people laugh and say what was done with in good faith. And that even the former governor, Adam Soshomole, did it. He used 9 members to do this, which one today, the deputy governor, they say, is a beneficiary of that scenario as deputy governor today. I quite disagree with them, because as at that time, we had PDP more in the house who really wanted the state government to move forward. So we needed a space. So if anybody is comparing that time with inauguration of the Edo State House of Assembly, I think it's a slap on democracy. It's a slap on democracy.
I mean, Musa, let me just give you a follow-up, ask a follow-up question, which is that this whole crisis is about controlling the legislature at the detriment of the progress that has been made by this present administration. Do you subscribe to that?
I don't know the progress that has been made. I have not seen anything. I see billboard every day, wake up and see. I wake up to see what we did even when we were in office. Whatever you see, it is what we did, and it's just a compliment to that. All I see in this administration is nothing other than erosion has taken everywhere. The Benin water storm is not working. It's abandoned. Recently, the central...
The Benin water storm was not done by this administration. It was done by the...
It's a continuation. It's a continuation of a program. If even the Ogbomodia house can be rebuilt by this administration, then other projects could also be continued. If you look at the revenue we have collected from Abuja, go to the budget. how do you serve your people? Serving your people is selfless service. We need selfless service in Edo State.
Okay, now, Alhaji Ahmed Musa, quickly. Some say all of this is the result of the overbearing influence of Abuja politicians.
There is nobody in Abuja. Who is in Abuja? Who is the politician in Abuja? Who is the politician? If the governor had politicians around him, then he will not be talking about politicians in Abuja. It's because where we made him governor, he brought other people. We don't even know. You don't know Asoni Dukokosu. Do you know them? I don't know them. But I know that the governor knows me. He knows I know him. So when we want to work, we should be able to sit down together and build the state. It's not bringing people who don't know the ceremony of the state.
So how do you think this whole issue can be resolved? Against the background that 2020 is just around the corner. Yes.
The only way it can be resolved is justice.
Justice for who now?
Those who come with equity,
yes.
Those who must come with clean hands. You cannot inaugurate the State House of Assembly at 9:30 p.m. in the night. And you people, even you, the journalists, will want that to strive in Edo, and the PDP governor can wake up tomorrow morning and do that.
Okay, let me pause you there, Ahmed Musa. Just hold the line, so you can contribute in the concluded part of this program. I appreciate if you stay online, okay? Okay, yeah, gentlemen, I mean, you heard the views expressed by Ahmed Musa, particularly. So who is responding first?
Yeah, no, I was already on the floor. But I will refrain
in 2 minutes.
No, I will even refrain from responding.
Yes.
Okay, because the bulk of what he has said is a partisan thing.
Okay.
Safe to say that if he says he wakes up
and he's not seeing anything,
yes. You know, Archbishop Edha used to say, if you woke up and you had a bad dream, just go back to sleep and have a good dream. So if he's waking up, he's not saying anything, maybe he should go back to bed again and wake up. At any rate, Jesus Christ touched a man. He says, the man, you didn't see now? The man says, I see men walk like trees. And Jesus Christ says, I need to touch you again. So for those who are waking up and not seeing anything, I have the anointing for a second touch so that they can see clearly. But you were asking me, it's uncharitable for somebody to say, in spite of what is going on, you bias your own argument. Number two.
Yeah, but he has his opinion.
That's why I say they are human beings.
Yes.
They are different.
But he's entitled to his opinion.
And I respect his opinion. I'm also expressing and espousing my own opinion, which is that emergency does not justify wrongdoing, sir. If you say that because PDP didn't want the progress of the state, that's why you did what you are doing, you are saying that emergency or exigency justifies wrongdoing. You know what I say? You can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. As Ike said, what is politically wrong is morally wrong. Okay. So if it is wrong, it is wrong in spite of the exigency of the matter.
Okay, Masede Asenogwa.
Well, for me, he is entirely entitled to his opinion. However, what is the cumulated opinion of Edo people? Does that represent the views of the majority? That's the point. Now, what he is saying, clearly he said we brought him, we made him governor. We appreciate, what for me, I must say this. As far as I am concerned, the greatest achievement of Comrade Adams Oshomole is to identify, discover, and present Obaseki as governor of Edo State.
Absolutely.
Then the people didn't know Obaseki. They didn't even want him. Yeah. And Comrade said, look, this man will do better. At least he will do as well as I have done.
He said better.
He was the brain behind my success. Yes. He told Edo people so.
He said so.
Eventually, he emerged.
Okay.
And now the Edo people are saying that, Comrade, you were right. Yeah. We not like this man. And then you now say no. It was a mistake for bringing him to you. Yeah. But the people said no.
We love
this man. Okay. We want him to continue.
Let me get to that. Let me just get that. But yes, go on. No, just hold on, Barrister Ahmed. I mean, Alhaji Ahmed, just hold on. Ahmed Musa, just hold on for a second. Let me get your views on some of the things that he said.
Well, I want to say that most...
Just go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say that most of what Mr. Ahmed Musa said, at best, they are personal malice. So they should not be brought to the public space.
They should not be taken seriously.
No.
Okay, let me get Ahmed Musa. Ahmed Musa, you're still there with us on the program, right?
Yeah, I'm fully here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you heard the last comment and the other comments from the other panelists.
I heard it said it has to do with malice.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's talking about, whether there is malice in governance. Let me tell you, and let me treat it very. Anything done on a bad footing must end up on a bad footing. We will correct it. We will not allow it to stand.
You can't correct it like that.
Okay. And we corrected it.
Your call credit has been...
Okay, we run out of time, and of course, I hope Ahmed Musa can get back to us as quickly as possible. But let me get the final word on you.
Yes, yes. You see, it's not everything that is that we should be responding to. For instance, how can a man come out to say he's not seen anything?
Sonny Dagmo, that's his opinion. That's his opinion.
Then, excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes, he has his right to his opinion. You can't question that.
No.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't have a right.
He has his right.
Wait, excuse me. He doesn't have a right to a Juandai's opinion. He have a right to an objective opinion.
That's his right.
If it's
whether it's subjective, whether it's objective to him or it's objective to him, it's his right. So
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So I would like to advise people like Ahmed Musa, because people like him, there are quite a few of them out there still left. I would advise them to join the moving train of progress.
Okay, all right. So let's open our studio line now. 052290573. That's the number to call. Please start that number, and you will be part of the program Politics Today on independent television and radio. Well, we are waiting the ministerial list for Mr. President, and one clear thing on that is the portfolios will not be attached to it. And then, of course, Mr. President says he will not appoint anybody that is a stranger to him. As a matter of fact, part of the problem that he had in his first tenure was appointing people who were strangers to him. Gentlemen, Olu Martins, you want to take on that?
Yeah, I hope that he can do that. Nigeria is large. Even the President Donald Trump had appointed people that he didn't, quite know.
Yeah.
How many people can you know in a country of 200 million people? Supposing somebody comes and says there is an egghead, there's a something on the Duke in Edo State. He's clinically savvy in terms of media analysis, and then the governor will say, I don't know. What he needs to do is to look at your profile. By the way, if they come, please accept and remember me. So what they need to do is, what is the profile of Sonny? What has he done before? What can Kemi Adeosun, for all intents and purposes, before the NYSC saga, was doing very well for this country. She was commissioner of for finance in Ogun State, and there are several other people. Okonjo-Iweala, Ngozi Obiozek, they were drafted in. So you can't know everybody. What you need to do is to look at people who have delivered and people who can deliver. Because when you say you want to know everybody, you're at least, especially at the age of Baba now, his knowledge is
Okay, we have our first caller on the program. Hello, caller. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Mr. Amos from Benin.
Okay, Mr. Amos, I appreciate if you could just speak up a little bit so we can hear you better.
I want to, in Nigeria, we are in a democratic government, system of government.
Yes.
So, and is it right that 9 members inaugurate a speaker? And in the same part is that I want to, if something is coming up, we need to address it. Is it wrong for the order of Benin to go to Mr. President and tell him the problem in a district House of Assembly for them to help him for them to come to the aid of the state? And
Okay. Okay. Yeah. There are so many questions you are asking. It looks like they are rhetorical questions, really.
I didn't get it.
Yes, we're listening.
So why I'm asking those questions is that because you said we are in a democratic system of government where the people speak. In that house, they have their own rights individually. And it's not supposed for, to me, it's not supposed for some to go back behind and work on their own without the others are not there.
Okay, those are your views. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Edha.
Yes.
Yeah, ministerial list.
Well, for me, it's a disappointment. We are going the route of 2015 all over again. One would have expected, whatever is the reason, whatever mode or manner Mr. President wants to use in presenting his ministerial list, it ought to have been ready by now.
Okay, let's
so
get
for me to say I want to know them personally first is an impossibility, and it shows that you are not looking out for the very best.
Hello, Kola, good morning.
Good morning, please.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Hello? Yeah, please go ahead.
I want to speak on the Edha House of Assembly in program. Vis-a-vis the role of the National Assembly
Yes.
in such situations.
Yes.
Constitutionally speaking, the House of Representatives or the National Assembly, to all intents and purposes, cannot take over the functions of the Edha House of Assembly in the very present circumstance. The Constitution is very clear on such situation, and you will agree with me that what the Constitution says in Section 1 to 4, in Section 11, Section 1 to 4, is not what is happening in Edo State. Section 11, Section 5 also went on to say that where the House of Assembly can hold meetings or transact business, then it means the House of Assembly is functioning. To this end, for peace to reign, I just want to appeal to other members to make themselves available for inauguration.
Okay.
From there, they can carry out any legal procedure. The House of Reps have their own issue, let them go and settle it, and not Edo State.
Okay. Okay, thank you. We've got Ahmed Musa back. Hello, Ahmed Musa, good morning. Yeah, this Politics Today on independent television and radio. Just last comment from you before we take you off the line.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, my last comment, like I said, is we should come together as one family.
Okay.
We have to solve what is before. We should together as a leader of the party in the state.
Okay.
The 24 are your, I'm not out of 24 now, comfortable with it. Very, very irregular. And if you go to be very irregular in the government, that's choosing to be open. To want to do the right thing for the Edo people to see. So that when we wake up to see that he's doing the right thing, we always want to wake up and see him do the right thing.
Okay. All right. I mean, Musa, I'll stop you there because my time is up. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
This is objective now.
Sonny, this is objective. This is objective. I don't like it. This is how you should know. Yes. Because it's in tandem with what you think or what you believe in.
This way a state person should speak. Who wants peace?
Way people should contribute to societal issues.
All right. Ministerial list. I want to get your word on that.
Well, Mr. President, well, I would say that the president is not living up to expectations in terms of foot dragging each of the time he's expected to take actions on certain national issues, such as the formation of the cabinet. Though we cannot, in all honesty, advised that he sacrifices merit on the altar of expediency as well. But I think he can do better than that. There's been a whole lot of time to have studied the political space this past 4 years. So
And he's always had people around him anyway.
So I believe
Lame excuse.
so I believe he can do better than that.
Okay, our time is up really. We just want to say big thanks to our panelists, Reverend Lou Martin, Barrister Edha Senogwa, Sonny Dagmo, and of course Ahmed Musa, all the way from the north. We thank you for the useful thoughts that you brought to bear, brought a lot of balance into the conversation. Otherwise, we probably would have been accused of gross imbalance in this conversation. And thanks to all our callers. If you're able to contribute to the discussion, we truly appreciate you. And that's it on the program for today and this week. Be sure to join us next week, Saturday, exactly 10:30, when we should bring you a fresh edition of the program. Until then, stay blessed and bye for now.